The Riverside Grand Ballroom sparkled like a fairy tale come to life. Crystal chandeliers hung from vaulted ceilings, casting prismatic light across tables draped in silk. White roses imported from Ecuador adorned every surface. The wedding of Victoria Ashford and Derek Harrison was, by every measure, the social event of the season. Victoria stood near the gift table in her $47,000 Vera Wang dress, her diamond tiara catching the light as she laughed with her bridesmaids. The gift table groaned under the weight of elegantly wrapped boxes, Tiffany blue, silver foil, gold ribbons. This wasn't just a wedding, it was a display of wealth, power, and status. "Look at this one from the Montgomerys," Victoria cooed, running her manicured fingers over an enormous box. "I told them I wanted the complete Le Creuset collection. I bet this is it." Her maid of honor, Jessica, giggled. "What about that one?" She pointed to a small, simple box, wrapped in plain brown paper with a white ribbon. No card visible on the outside. Victoria's perfectly sculpted nose wrinkled in disgust. "What is that doing here?" She picked up the modest package like it might contaminate her. The wrapping was clearly done by hand, careful, but not professional. The ribbon was satin, nice but simple. The box itself was no bigger than a shoebox. "There's no card," Jessica observed, "probably from one of Derek's college friends." Victoria said the words like they tasted bitter. Derek had insisted on inviting his old roommate, Nathan, despite Victoria's objections. Nathan was a high school teacher, a teacher at her wedding. The thought alone made her shudder. The reception was in full swing. 300 guests dined on filet mignon and Chilean sea bass. The champagne cristal naturally flowed freely. The 7-tier cake stood like a monument to excess. Then came the gift opening. This wasn't traditional, but Victoria had insisted. She wanted everyone to see the lavish presents, to witness the generosity of the wealthy and powerful people in her circle. It was supposed to be a celebration of abundance. Derek, handsome in his custom Tom Ford tuxedo, looked uncomfortable. "Honey, maybe we should do this privately." "Don't be silly," Victoria's voice carried across the ballroom. She'd had just enough champagne to be bold. "Everyone wants to see. It's fun." She started with the biggest boxes. Each reveal was met with applause. The Montgomerys had indeed gifted the Le Creuset collection, $3,200 worth. The Vanderbilts gave Crystal Stemware $5,000. The Astors presented a weekend at their private villa in Tuscany. Victoria was in her element, performing for the crowd, making witty comments about each gift. The guests laughed and applauded. This was entertainment. Then she picked up the small brown package. "Oh, let's see what we have here," she said, her voice dripping with mock curiosity. She shook it gently. "It's so light. And look at this wrapping. Did someone's grandmother do this with her eyes closed?" Polite laughter rippled through the crowd, though some guests looked uncomfortable. Derek's face went pale. "Victoria, maybe?" No, I'm curious now." She tore open the brown paper without any of the careful ceremony she'd shown the other gifts. Inside was a plain white box. She opened it. Inside lay a small handmade photo album. The cover was simple leather, clearly crafted by hand, with Derek and Victoria embossed in gold lettering. It was beautiful in its simplicity, but compared to the luxury surrounding it, it looked painfully humble. Victoria held it up like it was a dead fish. A photo album. Her voice was incredulous. A handmade photo album. How quaint. The ballroom had gone quiet. the kind of quiet that precedes disaster. I mean, really, Victoria continued, her voice rising. We're registered at Tiffany, Naaman Marcus, and Williams Sonoma. We have a registry with a budget, and someone brings us a craft project? She laughed, but it was ugly. What am I supposed to do with this? Put it in the garage with the other junk? Jessica tried to quiet her. Victoria, maybe? No, I want to know who did this. Who brought the cheap homemade gift to my $200,000 wedding? Victoria's eyes scanned the crowd. Was it you, Nathan? This seems like something you'd do. In the back of the ballroom, a man in a simple but well-fitted suit stood up slowly. Nathan Ward, 32, had the kind face of someone who spent his days shaping young minds. His eyes, behind simple glasses, held a deep sadness. It was me, Nathan said quietly. Of course it was. Victoria's voice was triumphant and cruel. The poor teacher couldn't afford a real gift, so he made something in his spare time. How adorable. Did your students help you with the glue? The crowd was silent now, horrified. Derek stood frozen, his face ashen. Nathan's jaw tightened. Maybe you should look inside the album, Victoria. Why? So I can see more amateur hour craftsmanship? But something in Nathan's voice made her pause. She opened the album. The first page showed a photograph of two little boys, maybe 7 and 8 years old, arms around each other, grinning at the camera. They were in a small, modest house. The younger boy wore a cast on his arm. Victoria stared at it, confused. Who are these kids? Keep going, Nathan said, his voice steady but strained. She turned the page. Another photo. The same two boys, older now, maybe 10 and 11. They were at a birthday party, clearly a homemade celebration. Paper decorations, a grocery store cake. But both boys were laughing. Derek had moved closer, looking over Victoria's shoulder. His hands were shaking. The next page, the older boy helping the younger one with homework at a kitchen table. The lighting was dim, a single overhead bulb. Then, both boys at a high school graduation. The younger one in a cap and gown, the older one beaming with pride, wearing a Walmart suit that was slightly too big. Victoria's confidence was wavering. I don't understand. That's me, Nathan said, pointing to the older boy. And that's Derek, your husband, the man you apparently don't know at all. The ballroom was dead silent. Nathan walked toward the front, his voice growing stronger. After Derek's parents died when he was 7, my family took him in. We didn't have much. My dad was a mechanic. My mom cleaned houses. But we had room in our home and our hearts for a traumatized little boy who'd lost everything. Victoria's face had gone white. Derek lived with us for 11 years. He was my brother in every way that mattered. We shared a bedroom. We shared clothes. When Derek broke his arm falling off a bike, my parents paid the hospital bill, even though it meant not fixing our car for 6 months. Derek was crying now, silent tears streaming down his face. Nathan continued, his voice thick with emotion. When Derek got into Harvard, it was my parents who took out a loan to help with expenses that his scholarship didn't cover. A loan they're still paying off. When he got his first business internship, it was my mother who altered one of my father's suits to fit him because he couldn't afford one. He turned to Victoria directly. That cheap homemade album took me 6 months to create. I tracked down every photo I could find of Derek's journey, his real journey, from a broken orphan child to the man he is today. I included photos of my parents sacrificing for him. Photos of Christmases where they went without, so Derek could have presents. Photos of my dad working double shifts so Derek could go to prom. Nathan reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a sealed envelope. But the real gift isn't the album, it's this. He handed it to Derek, not Victoria. Derek opened it with trembling hands. Inside was a single sheet of paper. As he read it, his face crumbled completely. He sank into a chair, sobbing. "What is it?" Victoria demanded, her voice small now. Nathan's voice was cold. "It's a promissory note, the loan my parents took out to help Derek through college. The one they're still paying, I've paid it off, all $47,000 of it. They're free of that debt. That's my wedding gift to Derek. Freedom for the people who gave him everything." The crowd erupted. Some people were crying. Others began to whisper. The math wasn't lost on anyone. Victoria's dress alone had cost the same amount as Nathan's gift. But one was fabric that would be worn once. The other was liberation. Victoria stood frozen, the photo album still in her hands, finally understanding the magnitude of her cruelty. Derek stood up, walked past his bride without looking at her, and embraced Nathan. "Thank you," he whispered. "Thank you for everything. For this, for my parents, your parents, for everything." When Derek finally pulled away, he turned to face the crowd. His voice was raw but clear. "I need to say something, and I should have said it a long time ago." Derek walked to the microphone, wiping his tears. Victoria reached for his arm, but he gently moved away. "Most of you know me as Derek Harrison, Harvard MBA, venture capitalist, success story. What you don't know is that I'm also Derek Ward, the orphaned kid who would have ended up in foster care if Nathan's family hadn't chosen love over convenience." He looked at Nathan. "The Ward family gave me everything, not just a home, but dignity. They never made me feel like a charity case. Nathan's mom packed my lunch every day with the same love she packed his. Nathan's dad taught me to drive in the same beat-up Chevy he taught Nathan. They came to every school play, every baseball game, every parent-teacher conference." His voice broke. "And I repaid them by being ashamed. When I got to Harvard, I stopped using Ward as my last name. I reverted to Harrison because it sounded more prestigious. I didn't bring Nathan or his family to my graduation because I was embarrassed by their Walmart clothes and their old car." Victoria's face was crimson now, tears of humiliation streaming down her cheeks. "I built a new identity, a new history. I told people my parents had left me a trust fund. I let Victoria and all of you believe I came from money. And when Nathan asked if he could come to my wedding, I said yes because I couldn't figure out how to say no. But I didn't tell Victoria the truth about who he was. I let her think he was just some random college friend." Derek turned to Nathan. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. You gave me everything, and I thanked you by being ashamed of the greatest gift I ever received, your family's love." Nathan's eyes were wet, but he nodded, accepting the apology. Then Derek turned to Victoria. The look on his face made her step back. "And you," his voice was quiet but devastated. "You humiliated the person who matters most to me. You mocked a gift that represented more love and sacrifice than you can comprehend. You did it publicly, cruelly, and without hesitation." "Derek, I didn't know," Victoria started. "You didn't know because you never asked. In 2 years of dating and engagement, you never once asked about my childhood. You never asked about my family. You only cared about my bank account, my connections, my last name." He pulled off his wedding ring. I can't do this. I can't marry someone who sees people as price tags. The gasps echoed through the ballroom. Derek, please, Victoria begged. Everyone makes mistakes. I had too much champagne. I'll apologize. This wasn't a mistake. This was who you really are when you think there are no consequences. Derek's voice was final. I'm sorry, Victoria. The wedding is over. Chaos erupted. Victoria's mother was screaming about deposits and contracts. Guests were whispering, recording on phones, already spreading the story. Bridesmaids huddled around a sobbing Victoria. But Derek walked through it all to Nathan. Can we talk? Privately? They left the ballroom together, two brothers reunited by crisis. Outside, away from the chaos, Derek and Nathan sat on a stone bench overlooking the river. The sounds of the dying reception faded behind them. I don't know if I can forgive myself, Derek said, for being ashamed of you, of your family, of the people who saved me. Nathan was quiet for a long moment. You were a kid trying to survive in a world that judges you by your zip code. I get it. It hurt, but I get it. Your parents? They love you. They always will. They were hurt when you distanced yourself, but they understood. Mom still has every Christmas card you ever sent, even the years when you only signed your name. Derek broke down again. I want to make this right. You already started. What you said in there, that took courage. Nathan put a hand on Derek's shoulder. Come to dinner next Sunday. Just family. We'll start over. The small house on Maple Street was exactly as Derek remembered. The same chain-link fence, the same porch swing, the same welcome mat that had greeted him 25 years ago. He knocked, and Nathan's mother, Ellen, opened the door. She was older, grayer, but her smile was the same. Derek, she said simply, and pulled him into a hug. Inside, the house smelled like pot roast and home. Nathan's father, Tom, stood from his recliner, slower now, but steady. They shook hands, then Tom pulled Derek into an embrace. Good to have you home, son. That night, they ate at the same Formica table where Derek had done his homework. They used the same mismatched dishes. They laughed at the same stories, and Derek felt something he hadn't felt in years, peace. After dinner, Ellen brought out a box. I've been keeping these for you. Thought you might want them someday. Inside were memories. Derek's old report cards, art projects, photos, a Father's Day card he'd made for Tom when he was 9, a Mother's Day coupon book he'd made for Ellen, promising things like one free hug and I'll do dishes for a week. You kept all of this? Derek's voice cracked. Of course we did, Ellen said simply. You're our son. The wedding disaster had of course gone viral. Videos of Victoria's humiliation and Derek's speech had millions of views. The internet had opinions, lots of them. Some people defended Victoria, saying everyone makes mistakes. Others called her the worst person alive. Think pieces were written about wealth, class, and the performative nature of modern weddings. But the story that resonated most was Nathan's. His GoFundMe set up by strangers who'd heard the story raised over $200,000 for teachers who went above and beyond for their students. He used it to create scholarships for foster children and orphans. Derek, for his part, left venture capital. He started a foundation supporting families who took in foster children, providing financial assistance and resources. He gave speeches about the danger of forgetting where you used what it came from. And Victoria? She disappeared from social media, from society events, from the public eye. Some said she moved abroad, others claimed she was working on finding herself. Derek never spoke about her publicly again. It was a small ceremony, just 40 people in the Ward family's backyard, folding chairs, homemade decorations, a grocery store cake. Derek stood at a simple altar, watching as his bride walked down a makeshift aisle. She was a teacher he'd met at one of Nathan's school events. She wore a simple dress from a department store and carried wildflowers from the yard. When she reached him, he whispered, "You look perfect." Ellen Ward officiated. She'd gotten ordained online specifically for this. Tom walked the bride down the aisle. Nathan was best man, wearing the same Walmart suit from the old photos, now altered to fit. The vows were simple, honest, real. No performance, no pretense, just love. At the reception barbecue and potluck dishes, Derek stood to give a speech. "A year ago, I almost married the wrong person for the wrong reasons. I was living a lie, ashamed of the greatest gifts I'd ever received." He looked at the Ward family. "Today, I'm marrying someone who knows my whole story, who loves me not despite where I came from, but because of it, who thinks this backyard is more beautiful than any ballroom." He raised his glass of homemade lemonade. "To family, not the one you're born into, but the one that chooses you. And to love the real kind that doesn't come with a price tag." In Derek and his new wife's small apartment, they'd downsized considerably, sat a bookshelf. On the middle shelf, in a place of honor, was a handmade photo album with Derek and Victoria crossed out, and Derek's journey home written underneath in Ellen's handwriting. New photos had been added. Derek reuniting with the Ward family, Christmas mornings at the Maple Street house, Derek teaching financial literacy at Nathan's school, his new real wedding. The album had become what Nathan intended it to be all along. Not a gift rejected, but a reminder accepted. A testament to the truth that the most valuable things in life can't be bought, registered for, or wrapped in Tiffany blue. They can only be given freely, received gratefully, and honored always. If this story touched your heart, don't keep it to yourself. Like this video if you believe kindness matters more than wealth. Comment below and tell us, have you ever witnessed someone being judged unfairly because of money? Or have you been that person? Share your story. This is a safe space. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss our stories about real kindness, humility, and what truly matters in life. Share this video with someone who needs a reminder that people are more than their price tags. Most importantly, thank someone who chose you. Thank someone who gave you love when they didn't have to. Call that teacher, that mentor, that friend, that family member who believed in you. Don't wait for a crisis to show gratitude. Life is too short. Love is too precious. And people who give from the heart deserve to know they changed someone's world. Drop a heart in the comments for everyone out there who gives love without expecting anything in return. New heartwarming stories every week. Because in a world that often values the wrong things, we choose to celebrate what really matters: kindness, humility, and genuine human connection. See you in the next story.